We wish we didn't have to have places like this, but boy, we sure are glad Ernestine's Women's Shelter is here for us. And we're so pleased to have the Manager of Engagement and Development at Ernestine's Women's Shelter, Kathleen O'Gorman. Hello, Kathleen. And you've brought Edward Kirago, who is a recipient of the Natalie Novak Youth Award and also involved with the whole PSA that you've got going now, and a past client who's actually lived at the shelter. So it'll be great to get Edward's experiences. But first, let's talk about what Ernestine's Women's Shelter is all about, why it's so important that it's there.
Well, the Ernestine's Women's Shelter is one of 14 emergency shelters within the city. It is a 35-bed shelter, so
this is in Toronto?
In Rexdale.
Rexdale.
We're the only women's emergency shelter in Rexdale, closest one to the airport, supporting all of Etobicoke North and Mississauga. We support women fleeing from all forms of abuse, from domestic abuse, family abuse, but also elder abuse.
So you're getting all ages there. You have to be prepared for any situation.
Exactly. And we have counselors that both support the women and the children, because children are actually our largest client base. We currently have 23 children on site. Many people don't think about children in the shelters. They often just think about the women. And it's actually children of being the largest client base and also the most important to have that interruption in the violence and giving them an extra chance at a different type of life.
Just to change the course.
Precisely.
For them and get them on a better path. And Edward, you were how old when you came to live at Ernestine's Women's Shelter?
I was 12 years old. And
Kathleen, that's a key age, right? Because that's a great place for you to get on a new path. Did it change your life in positive ways?
I guess it did, because I never experienced that before, and it just made me a better, I find it made me a better person now. Like, I have a new perspective.
Wow. And this came from the people who were there working with you?
Yeah, people who were working there, and then also the people who I lived with, too.
And the feeling of safety, that might have been a new feeling for you.
Oh, for sure, definitely.
And now, thankfully, you know what that feels like. So that allows kids to know what to want when they're older, right?
Exactly. It gives them an opportunity to have hopes and dreams and be able to pursue things that when people feel safe, anyone feels safe, it enables them to be able to think outside of just their immediate needs. And that's what we try to give everybody, that hope and that dream.
How do you fulfill all these needs with your programs and services? Give us an example of some of the things you do there.
Well, our programs and services are all catered specifically to each client. So, for example, we have counseling programs for women, children and youth. We have legal and housing. We have outreach and transitional. So that whole gamut, what we do is cater it per family depending on what their needs are, depending on what stage the kids are at, whether the mom, for example, is currently working or hasn't been working for years, what medical services they may need, legal services. We do a lot of legal support because that's often what's encountering with both criminal law, family law, divorce, custody, all sorts of things. And it can be very, very overwhelming, right? But most importantly is the feeling of safety. So it's shelter first, always. So we try to address immediate needs and then grow out from there.
As soon as women and children feel like they've got their feet solidly on the ground again, almost one of the first things they want to do is give back because they're so thankful. Do you see that a lot?
We do see that. We tend to see it kind of at the 10-year, 15-year mark in the sense of, so someone who has really been able to grow and develop their own life outside, their kids have now grown and they're strong and they're pursuing their own dreams, and then they feel like they're at a stage again where they're like, I really want to start giving back. And they do that in the form of donations, volunteering. Sometimes they'll actually run events for us. We call them community events. And they do that all in the vein of bringing awareness, as we always work towards, plus the support and fundraising element.
And Edward, how old are you now?
I'm 18 years old right now.
Yeah, so you've had some time now to get your feet solidly on the ground underneath you. What are your hopes and dreams and goals for the future?
Well, I'm graduating this year, so I'm just waiting for stuff to happen, and I just got into aviation management for next year, so I'll be taking that course in Barrie, and my
Georgian College.
Georgian College.
You got accepted.
My goal in life is my dream job is to become a pilot.
Fantastic. That's amazing. A dream you might not have been able to consider before, right?
No.
And now it's like, well, yeah, I'm going to become a pilot. Like, whatever. Get out of my way, world. Here I come.
Yep.
So rewarding for you, right?
It is rewarding, but it's rewarding in the sense of us being able to give anyone the base so that they can be the best that they can be in whatever they want to pursue.
Let's talk about the Natalie Novak Youth Award, because Edward has received it for being just a great all-around person. What does it mean?
Well, Natalie Novak was a Ryerson student who was murdered by her boyfriend. And in her honor and her name and her memory, her parents wanted to start, in conjunction with Ernestine's Women's Shelter, start a award to make sure that every year a youth is honored in her name. And making sure that that positive love and support is continued, and it's really quite beautiful. So this year it's very special because through the sponsorship with Scotiabank, we were able to offer a grant as part of the Natalie Novak Award, and we gave that to Edward to be able to support his studies, and that was very exciting to be able to do that.
Will I be able to take a flight with you in the future sometime?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
All right. That's going to be so great. Let's talk about the fundraising, because this all needs money.
Yes.
To be able to run and continue. So the big fundraising event for you has just happened. You're already planning for next year. Ernestine's Affair, or Ernestine Affair, what is it called?
Ernestine Affair.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell me about it.
Yes, the Ernestine Affair happens every year. It's our largest fundraiser. It brings in a quarter of the amount that we have to fundraise every year, so it's quite a big event for us. It's a 500-person event at the Carlu, and it's amazing because it's a combination of bringing past supporters together, new supporters together. It's kind of, like our opportunity to connect with everybody. Plus, every year we honor one youth with the Natalie Novak Youth Award, but also a woman every year with the Ernestine Van Marl Award. And that's really special to us because these are past clients who have exceeded in whatever they wanted to inspire, and they are leaders, and they are now giving back. And our ability to be able to honor them, that's really special.
I know Edward's story is very powerful. Can you think of other situations that you've encountered at the shelter that kind of stand out in your mind?
Yeah, there's a couple. Unfortunately, each circumstance starts really difficult, very sad, very hard. One client was struggling in isolation for years, was being abused by her partner and his family, and was very, very isolated. She had no ability to connect with the outside world. And it was only due to a doctor that she was able to speak with, that she was able to escape. And it's often, people think that with the shelters that people are always just going to the nearest shelter, and that's actually a misunderstanding, is that you never want to go to, you go to the nearest shelter when you're escaping, but you don't want to stay in the shelter in your community because it's not safe. So she came to us through another shelter because it wasn't safe for her there. And so she stayed with us for about 8 months. And it was quite an amazing process for her because she stayed for about 8 months, was able to really grow and develop. She always wanted to get into HR management, was able to pursue her studies. She is now a senior leader on a team in a pharmaceutical firm and just got remarried.
Oh, love it. That's how life should go.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you so much for all you do. Edward's story has been featured in a PSA that you're running. Set us up. We're going to see that PSA in a moment. Tell us what we're about to see.
The PSA was a really beautiful opportunity that came to us through one of our volunteers. They came to us and said, we have this network, can we do this for you? And it was phenomenal. It was a combination of taking stories from 5 of our youth. We really wanted to do it from the youth perspective because, as I shared earlier, a lot of people don't think about the children and youth that are actually growing up in the shelters. And so we took the stories from 5 youth and distilled that. And through professional writers, directors, they were able to translate that through volunteer camera, audio, all the actors were volunteer that were able to create this story for us, and it's amazing. It's absolutely beautiful because what it does is it shows through a youth's perspective what it means to go through that experience at home and come to a shelter. But also, you know, we always talk about awareness, so it brings out awareness, but it's a great tool for people to understand about how to support shelters and what that means.
We're going to see that PSA in a moment. I want to thank you so much for being here today and talking to us about Ernestine Women's Shelter. Edward, thank you for sharing your story and being an inspiration to so many, and I can't wait to be a passenger on your flight. And all the best to you in the future. For more information, where do we go?
Go to ernestines.ca, and you can also get us on Facebook at Ernestines WS. So please come visit us at any time.
Thank you so much. All right, now let's watch that PSA.
My dad was passed out drunk when we left. Living at home was never easy, but leaving was just as scary. We escaped to the shelter, unsure of our future. But I knew I had to be the brave one. The lady that let us in was nice, but I couldn't believe this was happening. She told us we were safe. I hadn't felt safe in a long time. We were given our own private room. It was clean and warm and made us feel welcome. But I was still really worried about my mom. I couldn't shut my eyes, no matter how tired I was. At breakfast the next morning, I got the feeling we were the new people. But I was surprised how many other moms and kids were here. It all felt so different. I sure didn't expect to see another boy my age at the shelter. But I was wrong. It was nice to see that my little brother was getting some help in his own way, too. I got to listen to other kids' stories, and with the help of a counselor, write down how I was feeling. And we got to have some fun, too. And making a new friend that understood what I was going through was amazing. But the biggest change was in my mom. She reminds me of the mom I knew when I was a little boy. Thank you, Mom. And thank you, Ernestines, for taking in 3 strangers and never making us feel that way.
Every night in Canada, more than 3,000 children are forced to sleep in an emergency shelter to escape domestic violence. Ernestines has supported 4,500 children through our shelter and outreach, and counting. Ernestines is not just an escape, it is an open door to a new life. Please give generously.